In my research, I studied the political campaign strategy in 2016 parliamentary elections in Slovakia in order to argue that political parties politicized the ongoing migration crisis in media outlets to win the elections. I examined the presence of several concepts and fear elements in the pre-election debates in television. The lack of examination of this specific topic suggests that it is important to add more information to the research and examine the campaign in greater depth. I would like to fill in the research gap by examining television as an important element of the political campaigns because I believe that the debates had a key role in influencing voters. I use textual and visual analysis of the discussions in local TV outlets as my main source of data. For the audience response, I drew conclusions based on the analysis of the popularity of certain pre-election posts, which were determined by likes and reactions, and by observing discussion in the comment section. The concept of moral panic is based on a widespread, most often irrational fear that someone or something is a threat to the values, safety, and interests of a society. It is one of the key concepts that explains the perceiving of immigrants. In the last 5 years, the EU far-right parties reoriented against immigrants, presenting them as a threat. In one of the debates, the Minister of Interior, Robert Kaliňák, kept underlining the significance of the crisis and the urgency of the matter, which he got highly criticized for by his opponent. Taking the mentioned data into consideration, it can be determined that the language and rhetoric of the minister was intentional and he used wording that seemingly triggered fear among the audience. The spiral of silence theory leads people to remain silent in situations where they consider themselves as a minority. Noel Neumann, the author of the spiral of silence theory, claims that people's assessment of the political climate is an early and reliable indicator of what will happen in an election, and she believes that television accelerates the spiral. Migration crisis became the leading topic of the campaign and overshadowed the important and pressing topics of healthcare and education. Even though in Slovakia in year 2015 only 330 foreigners formally requested asylum, migration crisis became the main topic of the elections, which highlights the over-exaggeration of its significance. Radicalization is a process by which an individual or group adopts increasingly radical political, social, or religious ideals, and political polarization is the divergence of political attitudes to ideological extremes. Society gets segregated because of two opposing political ideas, which can cause instability in countries. I observed the behavior of politicians and their audience on social media platform Facebook to see the reaction of the society to the anti-immigration language and rhetoric. In their posts, the topic of migration is radicalized, and based on the audience response, it can be determined that the society is highly polarized. Political leaders have been intentionally using anti-immigration rhetoric as an integral part of the election campaign, which has enabled them to actively implement fear and danger among the citizens. The intensity of these anti-immigration procedures did not correspond with the ongoing situation, and therefore the situation can be denoted as manipulated and highly politicized. Here are my sources, and thank you very much for your attention.